welcome to another tutorial video. For today's one, we're going to be recreating a similar version of this card. I think this came out last year. It's a gorgeous paper panda die from Creative Expressions. I don't think they're working with paper panda anymore, so if you have got hold of any in the past, I don't think they're going to be bringing out any new designs, but there are some gorgeous ones that they have released, and I absolutely adore this one. They come in the gorgeous like bronze coloured metal, and this one has a separate cutting edge on the outside, so you can cut it into a circle and it comes with that, or you can cut it into your card as well. But this one, I was experimenting. I can't 100% remember exactly what I used because this has been sitting on my shelf for however long since I made it to remind me that I really loved this card. I think maybe I did film it. And so there might be a sped up video of this card as well, and I was doing another one with it perhaps, but I couldn't part with this card because I just loved how it turned out so much. So I'm going to do one of my fluffy stuff, squishy sort of backgrounds for this card using similar products, what I could kind of remember off the top of my head. So I think I used the Golden Glow Opal polish, then we're also using the white fluffy stuff, and I'm almost at the end of this bottle, so I thought I might show how you can cut into the bottle and scoop out the remaining sort of remnants of it as well. Then I have a feeling I had just gotten this spray when I did this one, and this is the Purple Obsession, and I think it's purple with like a blue mica in it, so we're going to use a bit of that. I've picked out a few Pixie sparkles. I've got Groovy, Grape and Beyond Blue, and then I've also got a Pixie powder in Making Waves. And this one I had sprinkled in some of the Star glitter jewels, the gold ones, but I also thought some Sahara gold Glitterbitz might look nice as well, so we might do a little bit of that too. And for these backgrounds, similar to with all of the squishy ones I've shown in the past using Nouveau products, I'm going to work on my Tonic Easy Clean matte, and then I'm going to actually work on 2 A5 pieces of cardstock because I have a feeling this one is slightly bigger than my normal size. Maybe it's the same size, it just looks a bit bigger. I suppose because that circle is so large it's throwing me off, making me think it's bigger. But I'm going to do a couple because you can usually get a couple of good backgrounds with the fluffy stuff. Like the actual puffy effect. So what we do is we squish everything onto the mat, squish our card into it, and then we heat it to get that puffy effect. And you can keep going, watering it down, you know, like getting another background out of it and everything, but the more you water the fluffy stuff down, the less of this effect you're going to get when you heat it. But we will need to sort of heat it to get the puffing to work, and then leave it to dry as well, because we're going to have globs of the polish on there too. So hopefully we'll get a similar kind of result to this, but you can use anything you want to with this kind of technique. And if you don't have fluffy stuff, you can substitute it with the Nouveau expanding mousse, or also the Andy Skinner lava paste from Cosmic Shimmer as well. Both of them are very similar kind of products that would work in a similar fashion. I think they do puff up slightly differently, but you would get a similar sort of result, and you could have this sort of puffed up effect within your background as well. So first of all, I think I'm going to get my palette knife and put a little bit of the Opal polish onto the mat first. So we can just do a couple of little scoops. And the bigger blobs or scoops you sort of put onto the mat, the more you're going to get like that blobby kind of effect that you can see on the bottom of this card. Or the more you sort of spread it out, the more it's just going to sort of give some colour effect to the background. Then I'm going to use some of this gorgeous spray. So with the Airless misters and the Pearlescent ones in particular, which say Pearlescent just here, you want to shake them so that the little ball that's in there gets all of the mica into solution. And oh, there it is. It was stuck on a lump of mica. Okay, so we got a nice good mix on that now, and then we can do a, whoa, went off in the wrong direction then, do a couple of sprays of this in the background. I love the colour of this one, the way it's got that beautiful blue mica in the purple spray. So we've got a little bit of that. Then I want to add the fluffy stuff next, I think. So this bottle is practically empty. I know, because the last time I did this I was struggling to squeeze some out. So we can see if we can get any more out, but if not, I'll show you how you can cut into your bottle no, you can't really get any more out of that. So I like to take these kind of scissors from Tonic. They're the medium-sized ones, and they're really good. They've got the serrated blades, so they're really good for cutting into thick things like plastic bottles. And you probably will get them a little bit mucky, but if you cut into your bottle, you can do this with your Cosmic Shimmer glue as well to get more out, or any bottle of glue that you have, and then you can just use your palette knife to scrape some of it out of the bottle, so you don't waste that last little bit that's sort of left in there. And this might actually be enough for our background, so that's pretty good. It doesn't matter that I'm contaminating it, because it's not like I can save the opened bottle or anything, so we can just add that all over the background, because we want a lot of this really cool kind of effect. And I suppose the more you add initially, then hopefully the longer the fluffy stuff kind of effect will last for different like pulls of your backgrounds that you're going to get off of it as well. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything out of that bottle. See, that would have gone to waste before because you wouldn't have been able to squeeze it out, but now we've actually got an extra beautiful background out of it. And I'm just going to wipe off my scissors as well. Okay, then with that original one, there's more blue in there, so I'm presuming I probably did it around the time that the Pixie Sparkles launched. I don't think it was around the time of the Pixie Burst, but I will use a bit of the Burst in there as well because I think it will look really nice. So I'm going to use Beyond Blue from the Pixie Sparkles, and these have got like much larger sparkly elements in them, as well as the dye powder as well. So you're going to get the blue, but you're also going to get beautiful large sparkly mica flaky things in there as well to give a beautiful sparkly effect. So I'm going to go in a few places with that. I might do some tiny little taps of the Making Waves, because the Pixie Bursts are just a mixture of dye powders, so they haven't got the mica in them, but they're very intense, so you don't want to go too heavy-handed with them because they can overpower your background. And we are going to add a little bit of water to this to help those kind of powders activate, but I just want to do a little tiny bit of that to get some depth in there. And then why not add a bit more purple? So let's go with some Groovy Grape Pixie Sparkle, and this has also got a bit of a blue kind of mica to it as well, so it'll go really nicely with that spray that we used. So that is that. Then I'm going to get some water and spray from a distance without getting any on my card that I've made, and then we can dip our cardstock into it. So we just want to like squish and twist it around a little bit to get a nice full sort of coverage on our background, and then we can pull this off. Look at that cool effect that you get. I mean, even just leaving it like that looks fantastic, but we are going to heat it, and we're also going to sprinkle some confetti and glitter into it before we heat it as well. But look at that cool effect that you get. I just think it looks so lovely and so organic every time you get one of these like pulls off of here. So we can do a second one. I'll zoom back out a little bit. We can do a second one. We can probably get a third one out of this as well, so I might get another piece of card in a second. And then look at that. It's so beautiful. We can add some more colour in as well if we want a bit more purple. We can add a little bit of that in too. I think just for the sake of getting these heated and everything, I'm just going to move that to one side, make sure there's nothing underneath it. We can add a little bit more purple onto this one whilst it's still wet, and this will give a different result than if we had had the purple on the mat to begin with as well, because we'll probably get a few more speckly kind of effects because of the actual, like the way the powder kind of lands and disperses on there. And then if I bring them both back in, we can sprinkle in some of the glitter jewels, or any of your confettis that you have from Nuvo would work brilliantly too. And just do a few stars. Not all of these are going to stick, so you can be a little bit more heavy-handed than you want the final effect to be. But as we heat the fluffy stuff, it should kind of puff up and sort of hold on to the confetti. And then I think I want to add a tiny little bit of Glitterbitz as well. I just love Glitterbitz. I love that they've got the mixture of the particle sizes in there. If you've not used Glitterbitz before, they have a really fine glitter, they have a medium sized glitter, and then they also have the larger kind of, you know, like little circles of glitter that almost look like the tiny little bit that's punched out of the centre of a sequin. They have all three different particle sizes in there, so not only does it give you a fantastic sparkle, it's also really lovely for when you're doing any kind of background, because it gives a little bit of like difference in there. It's not all the same size little speckles all over it, it's like different sizes, which is nice. So I'm just going to turn on my heat tool and I'll get it warmed up, and then I will speed up this part and put it to music because nobody wants to listen to the heat tool going for ages, but I'll try and hold it as close to the camera as I can so you can see it puffing up. Okay, so those are our two gorgeously puffed up backgrounds. We'll just leave them to dry a little bit longer so that everything can completely dry, because we have only really blasted the fluffy stuff on there, and you kind of need the cardstock to sort of dry all the way through. But look how brilliant they both look, and even going in, this is the second background, you've still got some of that fluffy stuff showing through onto the second background. So I'll put these to one side, and then I might as well show you what kind of effect that you can get using up the very last bits of this. So we can just spray this with water again, making it really sort of more watered down. I'll get another piece of A5 card, and then we can squish into this as well and just get a nice overall kind of coverage. This is actually nice if you wanted a die cut or a sentiment to perfectly match your background as well, but you didn't want to waste your you know, background with a lot of the fluffy stuff in. You could just do this kind of thing to get your background for that as well, and you maybe could get one more off of there too, but otherwise I'm going to be inundated with backgrounds. I have so many that I haven't used over the years as well, but we can add a little bit more powder into this again just to make it look a little bit different, give it like a little speckled kind of effect with the pixie bursts or the pixie sparkles. What else should we do? We can also go with the confetti on this one. I'm not sure how well this is going to hold onto here because there's not quite so much fluffy stuff, but we can give it a go and see if it'll work. I might not do the glitter this time because I'm not sure if that's going to hold as well, and it's nicer to have confetti blown across your room rather than loads of little bits of glitter that are going to be more difficult to clean up. But that is our third generation, and I'll heat this as well just to see, because you never know if some of these areas are actually still going to have the capability to puff up from that fluffy stuff. So we did have one tiny area with a little bit of fluffy stuff left to get the puffiness, and some of the confetti looks like it's going to stick, so we'll see how that looks when we come back as well. So I'm going to leave them all to dry, and then I'll be back in 1 second to finish them off. So I've got my dried backgrounds now. I can't 100% remember what I said at the beginning of this video because it's been a couple of days since I filmed the background making, but look how gorgeous they look once they're completely dry, and they've got the gorgeous fluffy stuff effect on them as well. So I'm going to cut the backgrounds down in a minute, but first I wanted to get the die cuts sorted. So on the original card, I've used the Wishes, which is this beautiful Wishes from Sue Wilson and Creative Expressions. I actually have one in the packaging, which is nice, and it does actually have a separate bubble, so if you want to mount this onto vellum or a different colour, this gives a tiny little edge around the actual sentiment. However, for mine, I'm going to stack up 2 sentiments and colour them with the gilding polish that we used in the background, and then I'm going to shadow it with a blue one, because the original one I just did one and did it with the gold and shadowed with the blue, so I thought I'd make it look a little bit different and do 2 of the white ones. And then for each of the main pieces, I've got this gorgeous paper Panda die, which I haven't got on real packaging, so I'll just show you like this, and it has the separate cutting edge. Look how tiny this die is. It's so adorable that it's so tiny next to the cutting line, but it still cuts the perfect circle, and it goes absolutely perfectly around your paper Panda die as well. I adore this die. I've made quite a few cards with that over the last couple of years since it came out. I think it was 2 years ago. The time goes so quickly, it's hard to remember if it was last Christmas or the one before. But anyway, I've cut 2 from white, and I've cut 1 from, I think this is Royal Blue Foundations cardstock. And then I've also cut 1 from the luxury blue cardstock from the Coral Skies colour trend from Tonic that came out recently. I can't remember what the name is, but it's a beautiful cardstock, this one. I thought I'd just do different ones to make it look a little bit different, and this is also a different blue than what I had shadowed the original one with, just to make them look a little bit different. So we're going to shadow these stags together, just like so, and doing a drop shadow from the top left, which is my preferred direction to do the drop shadow from. So basically you're shifting the white one down so you can just about see like a little bit of blue in that top left kind of corner. Sorry, my fingers are yellow. You'll find out from another advent video why they are bright yellow. But yeah, that's how I'm going to shadow those. I'll probably do that sped up so you don't have to watch that, because it's a little bit tedious to watch, especially with so many little dobs of glue on all the back of those gorgeous holly leaves on the antlers. But on this card, I used my ancient old Dymo, this is actually my granddad's Dymo, to do the sentiments. So for this one, instead of just doing them both Christmas wishes, I'm going to do 1 winter wishes and 1 Christmas wishes. And I have noticed, because I had this card up on my shelf for however long it's been there, 1 or 2 years, I have noticed that this Dymo doesn't want to really stay stuck to the foam tape that I put on there, so it stays stuck on one end particularly. So what I'm going to do is do what I'm going to do with these ones with the original one as well. So sometimes I mean this isn't real Dymo tape, this is like alternative brands kind of version of one, so it's not like the most brilliant adhesive on here. It's funny, isn't it? I have some original Dymo tape that is literally like older than me, and its adhesive works perfectly, and then there's like cheaper versions that I've bought to replace some of the colours, and the adhesive just doesn't want to stay, but it stays on cardstock nicely. It's just other materials it doesn't always like to stay on. So I'm going to back that original one and the 2 new ones just onto some white card, and then I'm going to trim right up to the Dymo. I don't really want it to have a white border around the edge, so I'm just going to trim right up to it, but I just want it to have that sturdiness behind it so that it's going to stick to the foam tape when I add it to the card a little bit better. So we can do that, and then take whichever scissors you like. You can use your long bladed ones or your little snips as well, work really nicely, just to cut right up against the edge of the blue there. And so for the new cards that we're going to be putting together in a second, we've got winter wishes, and we're also going to have a Christmas wishes, and then my original card was also a Christmas wishes one as well. I think I said earlier in the video, I couldn't part with this card. I just loved how it turned out so much. I think it was the first background I'd done playing with the fluffy stuff, and I just loved how it turned out. So finished cutting round the last few sides on this one. Then I'm going to put some Cosmic Shimmer glue on the back of this to stick this one back onto my original card. So that's going to be nicely stuck onto there now. And that shouldn't ping off when it's standing on my shelf, because I'm probably going to put it back up even though it's a Christmas card. I've had it up all year for a year or two, so I'm going to put that back on my shelf so I have that one still to inspire me. And then I'm going to speed this bit of the footage up just while I shadow all of these together and stick the sentiments together as well, because I've done it quite a few times in my advent videos, so you will have seen that already hopefully. So I've stacked up everything ready, but now we need to make these 2 wishes gold. So they're going to match in with the gold gilding polish that we used in the background to create it, which was the Golden Glow Opal polish from Cosmic Shimmer and Creative Expressions. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that and just dab it all over the sentiment. You can dab it, you can wipe it, you could use a brush if you want to, however you want to apply it, just to make it a beautiful gold colour, so it's going to tie in really nicely with the card. You could definitely leave it white if you wanted to as well. I just felt like it would stand out more against the white deer if it's a white sentiment, even though we are shadowing it with blue after the gilding polish has dried. I just think it looks really nice matching in with the background, and because we made the background ourselves, we've got the perfect colour to match in with it. And this is a really pretty gold tone as well. It's a really lovely light kind of gold, and I've missed a little bit on the end there. So really pretty, this one. So we'll leave that to dry and we'll do the other one. And then whilst they're drying, we can decide which bits of what backgrounds we want to use, and we can cut them down to size. So I am only going to finish 2 cards in this video, but we probably have enough backgrounds to technically make 6 cards. But, you know, if you're making them for someone extra special, you might as well choose, you know, a really lovely part of the background and just create 1 card from an A5 piece, because you can even save the leftover bits and create a card from that later on as well. You know, after you've finished with these cards, you can have that in your scrap box and, you know, add that onto another card later down the line, or it can remind you of the technique as well, if you might want to redo it and do it in different colours or something too. So I have a feeling maybe I did 2 coats of this on the original card, so that's probably dried off a little bit by now, so I'm going to add a little bit more just to make it extra gorgeous and gold. Okay, and then I'll just come back and add a tiny bit more on this as well, just to make sure it's really covered. Okay, then we're going to move on to cutting our backgrounds down to size. Okay, so the backgrounds we've got to choose from are all of these ones, and this was like the very leftovers, and you can see how some of these stars have stuck, but other ones are just going to tip off, and the same will be for the other 2 backgrounds as well. But this one is a lot more subtle, so I think I'm going to save that for something else, because we could add more die cuts to this and create even more of a beautiful background from this for a different project. Because for these projects, or this card that I'm making, I really want it to be jam-packed full of this beautiful detail. So I know it might seem a little bit wasteful, but I am just going to take 1 panel out of each of these. But we will have those leftover pieces that we could use for another project as well. I just find for that specific technique, it's quite nice to work on a bigger piece of card first to do your initial background, and then you can trim it down afterwards. So I'm going to start by just cutting a straight edge on this. Then I'm going to butt that up against my trimmer and get my first right angle. Then I'm going to trim this down to my favourite size of card, and then I've got to decide, do I like this area where it would be cut up to, or do I want to shift it over a little bit? I think I might shift it over a little bit because I really like those small bits that are there. So then I'm going to come back in this direction and line it up with my mark and cut that off. So that is our first background that we've got for our first card, and inevitably some of that glitter and stars are going to fall off as well, because as I said when we were making the backgrounds, not all of the stars and glitter will actually, you know, fall on a place that's got enough fluffy stuff or gilding polish to keep it in position. So once we have done that background, we've got to decide the same for this background as well. So I'm going to go here first, and when I'm cutting this first line, I'm looking down here to see how long this piece is and see if it is going to you know, accommodate my size of rectangle. So I'm going to trim that down and then trim up to here, and then we can get the first official cut for the actual panel size. Do I like that there? Yes, because that's going to include colour all the way up to the edge of my panel. And then last cut, do I want to cut any off this side, or... No, I will go with where that is. So that is now my second panel for my second card. Look how much like of a beautiful galaxy this looks as well. You could put planets on it if you wanted to. But although we have kind of been, you know, a little bit not as frugal as we could have been, we do still have these pieces left over, which we could definitely use to create another project as well. You even have some skinny bits that even have the fluffy stuff on them too, so you can definitely use all of these pieces to create more of a scrappy background kind of a card as well. And I do always keep these bits and pieces. I never really show them in a video when I finish things off with them, but I do like to keep them all just in case, because you never know when you might need an extra piece and you've already got a background already made, which is nice. Then we're going to bring both of our backgrounds in, and we're going to add our element on, and we need to decide which one we want on which card, because you remember I shadowed them with different colours. So this one is shadowed with the specialty card, because you can see it's white on the back rather than blue all the way through. So we can put that on one of them, and then on the other one we've got the one that's shadowed with the navy blue colour of card, or the royal blue I think it was. And we can decide which way up do we like the background. Do we want the deer coming in from the right hand side like I did on the original? Do I? No, I do think it looks nicer coming from the right hand side. And then I really like that way round. It's kind of like focusing in on this beautiful area here. And yeah, I think this one is nicer this way up as well. There's more interest in these open areas on it. So now we need to stick these on. This might take a little bit of like putting a heavy acrylic block on it and leaving it for a little bit, just to make sure that stays nicely stuck down. So if you have an eyeball when you put this on, there's a small portion here which you don't actually need to put any glue on, so we can hold it at that position, and then we know we don't really have to put glue in that area. Okay, both of those have dried, I think, just about. Enough for us to finish the cards anyway. So, if I just pick those off, they got stuck to some of the glue that was overhanging. And then take a long bladed pair of scissors, flip it over, and then trim the excess off the edge. And there we go. And then the other one. Perfect. So we've got our two cards there now. And then we can put our sentiments on there. So this one is the one with the luxury cardstock. So that'll go on the one that's got the luxury cardstock as the shadow. And then this one has the dark blue cardstock. And then we're going to go Christmas wishes and actually we're going to go winter wishes and Christmas wishes, I think. And that's got a little bit of metallic gilding polish on there, so I'll just get that off. And we're also going to stick those on with some 3D foam. And this is the higher profile 3D foam actually. That's what I'd used on the original card, so I might as well use that on this one. So we can put that on the back, trim off the excess, and then stick the sentiment on. With these kind of sentiments, you might want to come back to it. As with the other one, I've stuck the cardstock on the back now, so it shouldn't pop off in the same way. But you might want to come back to it just to make sure it has properly stuck to your background, because when you've got like glitter and fluffy stuff and all sorts in the background, you never know how well things are going to hold and if they're going to pop off. So just come back to it a day or two later just to make sure that it is still stuck. And then we've got the winter. And then we can just stick our sentiments on. And I don't think that either of these cards need any extra embellishment. I've been using a lot of gems and sequins and all sorts of bits and pieces throughout the Advent series, but I feel like the background of these speaks enough and like covers enough of the card and gives us enough beautiful shimmer and everything. I don't feel like we need to have any extra embellishments. But if you make your card and your background looks a bit different, maybe you've used the lesser kind of background that we got as our third one, then you might feel like it needs a little bit of a scattering of embellishments and stuff. But for this card, as they are now, I think they're perfect. So I don't think they're going to need any extra embellishment. So literally just our sentiments, and then we'll stick them onto our card blanks, and then that'll be done for these ones. I'm really pleased I decided to make some of these as a video. As I said in the beginning, well, I think I did, I'm pretty sure I made this one in a sped up video with another card as well. So if I did, that will be linked in the end of the video with where you go, like right at the end, it pops up 2 pictures and then says subscribe as well. And you can click on the pictures if you're on a computer or on your phone, and it will take you to those videos that are shown in the pictures as well. So I'll make sure it's one of those if I'm remembering correctly, and I did actually film it as a sped up video. But yeah, you can see the differences as well, actually, because I couldn't remember exactly what I had used to do this one, or do the original one. So you can have a look at that and see what the differences were as well. Because I have a feeling something that I used, or I was either heavier handed with it, or I used something different and it was more like pigmented, because there's not so much of the white fluffy stuff. It's coloured it with the blue kind of colour. So I'm not sure what difference made that happen, but it looks nice either way. So, and these kind of backgrounds you can do with whatever you like. Whatever you have in your stash will work to create a background like that. So it's a nice technique to have up your sleeve for creating beautiful backgrounds, especially if you're just in the mood for creating a load of backgrounds one day. You know, just make a load of them, leave them all out on the side to dry, or, you know, partly heat set them if they've got the fluffy stuff in them, or an expanding mousse in them or something. Yeah, and then you've just got a bunch of them there ready to cut down and decide what die cuts you want to add on top of them. Or you might just want to add, you know, a stamped image in like a die cut shape, rather than actually having a beautiful intricate die cut. You can definitely just like mount a topper on there that can be coloured in and stamped. So that's the first one finished. Really beautiful, and that's the Winter Wishes one. And then the second one, I think this is the first tutorial where I've made 2 identical cards in it, but I love this card so much that I just had to make 2 of them. And you might as well, when you're making that fluffy stuff background, you know, do a few of them, because you can get at least 2 to 3 out that look really nice with just the one application of the products onto your Easy Clean mat. So that is this tutorial video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed seeing the fluffy stuff background. If you don't have fluffy stuff but you have expanding mousse and you really want to see me do a tutorial video on that, let me know in the comments so that I do know that you definitely want to see something that's similar but with an expanding mousse, because I wouldn't mind doing another one, and it's nice to know if you're actually, you know, looking forward to that kind of video as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!